Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
Come out with your best.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going to the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's
Pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted when Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil. Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan Fox. Thank you. Cheers.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I just rolled out of bed. I'm going to be totally honest. I threw on a new shirt, and that's about it. But I don't have a lot of time today. I'm Megan Fox, by the way, and we have medium smart things going on here, but we are tenacious AF, which is why we are doing another action stream today. A lot of you asked me, what can I do? What can I do when a family is being assaulted by DCF, by child abuse doctors? What can we do? Well, there are things you can do, and that's why we're here today. I am talking about the Hernandez medical kidnapping case. Both parents, if you want to get it too long, didn't read rundown, let me try to explain quickly. Mom and dad, Matt and Taki. Taki is born in Thailand. She speaks English okay, but it's not her first language. They have 2 children, 3 and now 9 months old. And the baby's name is Emma. Emma had a swollen leg one day, and her mother decided to take her to the doctor because it was strange. She takes her to the doctor, and the doctor, unbeknownst to Mom, calls ahead to the hospital and says, I'm sending my patient to the hospital and I suspect abuse, with no reason to suspect abuse because nothing happened. Baby didn't fall. Nothing happened, according to the mom. And they had been seeing this pediatrician for a while. So why she would do that, or whoever the pediatrician was, I don't know. She gets to the hospital in Atlanta, CHOA, Children's Hospital of Atlanta, and is immediately investigated by child abuse doctors, 4 of them. Imagine 4 child abuse doctors after what we know about Sally Smith coming down on you at the same time. They, within 2 hours, diagnosed the baby with child abuse because the baby has fractures in her leg and in her ribs. And some of those fractures are now questionable, and some of the doctors who have looked at them don't think that they actually were fractures, that they could just be markings on the bone indicative of a bone disorder, right? So we're still not even sure. But the child abuse pediatricians, including one named Dr. Pena, he testified against the family in juvenile court. The juvenile court took the children, put them with the aunt and uncle. And shortly after that, when the baby's leg didn't get better and kept getting bruises on it, they took her away from them and are claiming they must have abused her or let the mother come and abuse her at their house. Can you imagine what a ridiculous story that is? So this baby has not been given the proper medical workup to figure out what is going on. I have interviewed the father, Matt Hernandez, in this case. You can go back on this channel and listen to it. It's heartbreaking. I have interviewed the foster mom, Jennifer, who stood up for this family. She did respite care for the girls and noticed there was something wrong with the baby that doesn't look like abuse. She sent an email to DCF telling DCF, this baby doesn't look like an abused baby. This baby looks like another baby I knew with osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a bone disorder, which the baby may or may not have. But, and of course, the Dr. Pena is claiming they did the test and the baby doesn't have osteogenesis imperfecta. Well, there are several other bone disorders or underlying disorders, though, that can look very similar. And I'm not sure that they have worked up this baby for all of those things. So what we have been doing is trying to alert. Now, Matt and Taki have both been arrested and charged with 4 counts of child abuse each. They are felonies. It is very serious, very serious. So that now they are fighting a foster care case in juvenile court and a criminal case. A judge has ordered that Matt and Taki not even speak to one another. Taki's not allowed to speak to any of her family, her sister, her brother-in-law, her husband. She can't live with him. She is now homeless. It's a crazy story. You can't even believe what a court can do to you when they get a hold of you. You can't even believe it. I've never heard of this, and I don't know what the heck is wrong in Georgia and why they think that they can keep married people from living together. Even they're innocent until and unless they are found guilty, unless proven that they did this. So why is it that they're separated and they can't live together and she's homeless and he's lost his job? So, I mean, the whole thing is just getting worse and worse. Megan, Jody is watching. Jody who? Jody who? Do I know Jody? I'm racking my brain trying to think of who I might know named Jody. I don't. All right. So what I have been doing is trying to help you, help them. And if you look in the description of this video, whether you're watching on Rumble or on, hold on. If you're watching on Rumble or you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, if you go into the description of the video, you will find links there. You can find links to, Representative Jody Lott. Yes, she's in Georgia, isn't she? Isn't she? Jody, if you're watching right now, I'm so glad that you're watching because we are going to be reaching out to representatives in Georgia today, starting with Senator Ossoff. Because Senator Ossoff is on the don't say Jody Hildebrand. Casey Cat, stop it. We're going to be reaching out to Senator Ossoff's office along with some other reps, and also because Senator Ossoff sits on the Human Rights Subcommittee in the Senate. And in fact, while we are doing this activism today, I'm going to be playing for you that subcommittee meeting because I haven't got to see it. And he just had one the day we decided to start calling him last week. It was like the 14th. I want to say December 14th. he was actually going, the reason why no one was answering in his office was because they were all at the Senate subcommittee hearing on about kids in foster care and how bad defects is in Georgia. For real, that really happened. So I thought we would watch that. But Jody, I'm really glad that you are watching. Please, please, anything you can do to help this family. You know, we're not asking for the charges to be dropped, although I think they should be. I think they should be. We're asking for, we think they jumped the gun. This is one of those things. So the Maya Kowalski case, that $261 million judgment, it could have been stopped a long time before. It didn't have to go this far. It didn't have to get to lawyers and nasty fights in court and $261 million judgments. If they had just realized that they jumped the gun before, at the time, like if they had just listened to the CPS people who told them, nah, we called her doctors and they had prescriptions for all this, so we're not going to go forward. But no, they didn't do that. They called again and they made this an issue. And I believe that CHOA and DFACS in Georgia have jumped the gun on this family. If they are concerned that the baby is being abused, shouldn't they also rule out every other possibility before separating the family? They did not have exigent circumstances. There was no evidence that this baby was in danger of imminent death. Taking a nursing baby away from her mother without evidence that anything happened other than unexplained fractures that can happen in babies who have bone disorders. Not everything has been ruled out. She has not been worked up for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. She has not been worked up for a lot of different bone disorders that it could be. She was born severely deficient with vitamin D, which is a very big deal when it comes to bone density, bone, when it comes to rickets, any of these other things. And yet they're saying, no, in 2 hours, she doesn't have rickets. I don't know how they could possibly know this. We have studied Dr. Pena on this program. We listened to his presentation on how to identify neglect, and it is insane. It is insane. Jody, Representative Jody, I urge you, look up my show on Dr. Pena. These are the people who are making decisions to take babies from families, nursing babies from mothers. They threw out her breast milk. They threw her breast milk in a dumpster. I don't know what it is with DCF and throwing things in the dumpster that they shouldn't. But I mean, in Maya's case, they threw Jesus in a dumpster. They threw chocolate cake in a dumpster. And in the Hernandez case, they threw breast milk in the dumpster. Why would you do that? Honest to God, why would you do that? Her foster care mother, Jennifer, who called us and talked to us here on this program and is fighting tooth and nail for this family, God bless her. She said, I never got any breast milk. And come to find out when she finally talks to the mother, oh, she had tons of it that she gave to DCF, that she'd been pumping. And if anybody's ever done that, you know how terrible it is, how awful it is, especially if you don't have your baby with you. You can't even pump when you don't have your baby. You have to look at a picture of your baby to make it work. And imagine the stress of your baby's not even there. Now they've moved these kids around to 6 different foster homes. And they're now accusing the uncle and aunt of being abusers. It is insane. Child abuse is not contagious. Something is going on here. Something is going on here that is wrong. And so if you are in a position in Georgia to do something about it, please contact me. Let me know what I can do. How can I help? How can I help this situation? Who can I put you in touch with? Here's my contact information. Please email me. If you are in Georgia and you work for DFACS and you're sick of this shit and you want to blow the whistle, go to a public library, open up a new Gmail account and email me. I will never tell anyone who you are. You can send me documents. You can send me anything you want. Get me the files. I will go to jail before I ever tell who gave it to me. And by the way, no one can put me in jail from Georgia. Okay? It's like that ain't happening. No judge in Georgia can reach over to into the state of New York and do anything to me. So don't worry about that. Just send me the stuff. Blow the whistle, because this is outrageous and we need to stop it. All right. So what we are going to do, here's what, okay, this is it. Felicita wants to know, what can we do to help? This is very simple. In the description of this video, right below where the title is, you're going to see links to things. One of them says call sheet. Click on that link and you're going to see, hold please, you're going to see this. It's a Google document and it has some call scripts that you can use, but it also has contact information. We're calling Governor Kemp. Here's Governor Kemp's phone number. It turned out that his fax number didn't work. You know how I feel about faxes. I love fax numbers. I love sending faxes to people because I love flooding their offices full of paper. But his fax number didn't work, unfortunately. But here's his phone number. You can call Governor Kemp, and I made some scripts here, and you don't have to use them. Just make sure that you stay polite and civil and kind. You can use my scripts if you want from in-state or out of state. And talk to them on the phone. Phone calls make a big difference, and it doesn't matter if you're calling from this country or another country or their state or another state. It doesn't matter. You can do this. You can tell them you heard about this. You heard about this thing going on in Georgia, and somebody needs to do something about it. Somebody needs to stop the prosecutor before she uses tax money to prosecute this innocent family. I believe they're innocent. I believe this is a big, huge mistake. And CHOA doctors don't want to say that they're wrong. And DFACS doesn't want to say that they're wrong. They know they've made a mistake here. They have plenty of people telling them they're making a mistake, and they will not stop. And you know what's really gross? Let me tell you what's really gross. I have listened to evidence. And I won't tell you what evidence yet. Because I don't want to tip my hand. I don't want to tip my hand to them. But I'm in possession of a lot of different things in this case. And one of the things that I have heard from DFACS, from their own mouths, is that they just want the Hernandezes to admit that they're guilty of child abuse. And they have insinuated that they would give the children back if they did that. What kind of sense does that make? For one, if you didn't do it, why would you say you did? And if you did do it, you broke an infant's leg and ribs purposefully? They're going to give that kid back? Are they insane? Are they insane? And when I can show you that evidence, I'm going to. And believe me, DFACS, you don't want me to do that. You don't want me to do that. Because it's going to embarrass you really badly. It would be better to just admit you made a mistake. All right. So we have here Governor Kemp's information, Senator John Ossoff's. I'm going to call him while we're doing this before we get to the committee meeting because I didn't get through to his office the other day, and I really want to. I want to get through to his office and talk to them and show you how I do it. And then I want you to do it. I want you to call, burn up the phones. Today is the day we're going to make our government workers work for a living. We're going to make them earn their tax dollars, make them earn their paychecks. We want them running around like chickens with their heads cut off, wondering what the hell is going on here. Now, here's all the contact for DFACS, Department of Family and Children's Services in Georgia. Candace Brochi, you're not going to get very far with these people, but she's the head of DFCS. I think she should know that the public is watching. I've made different scripts for that. Forsyth County officials. Now, they're going to tell you they have nothing to do with this at all. I don't care. I don't care. They're in the county. The county, they give budgetary budget items to DFACS, and they need to know what's going on here. So call every single one of these people and leave them messages. They're going to tell you, we don't have any oversight over DFACS. And you know that the answer should be, why not? Why don't you? Who does? Don't bother calling the Attorney General, though, because the Attorney General works for the state, and he will be the one defending them in court. So don't call him. All right. Here's more. Fulton County, that's where the hospital is. Forsyth is where they've taken the children. Fulton County is where the hospital is. So, I think I forgot to take. No, he's the chairman. That's right. Fulton County Board of Commissioners. So here's this guy who's the chairman, Rob Pitts. This is where the hospital is. They need to hear about it too. They're probably going to say the same thing. Okay. They're probably going to say, do you really think anyone's in the office? Let's find out. It's this Friday before. They might still be there. Okay. But even if they're not, they're going to get emails. They're going to get the voicemail messages. But we can't just give up just because it's Christmas. The next DCF case hearing for them is January 19th. That's going to be here before we know it. And if that happens and nothing has changed between now and then, it's not good. So we cannot give up. A lot of these county people probably won't be there. But I think that Senator Ossoff's office is still, I think they're still answering the phone. And the governor's office should be answering the phone as well. Obviously, next week is going to be a total bust. So I was hoping to do it right now today. All right. Now, here's something interesting. The State Advisory Board. This advisory board right here, very important. They oversee DFACS cases. So they're the ones who are supposed to go to them and say, hey, something's wrong here. So I wrote a letter that I like. You don't have to use my letter. You can. I would suggest you copy some of it and add your own thoughts into it. But here's all the board members' contact info. We've got Fran Chastain, we've got her email address, Randall Hambrick, we've got his email address, Dr. Octavia Ferguson, she's on Twitter, and she responded positively to me. She said that she would bring it up at their next meeting in February. Here's her Twitter and her email. We've got Deke Copenhaver. He's on Twitter too, so you can get to him there. Plus, he has an email address here. All these people, I've got all their contact information. They all need to hear about it. Some of them have phone numbers. Some of them have emails. Send it to everybody. Then the next thing we're going to do is call and send emails to the media in Georgia. They need to know about this case. And I know that the family has contacted these particular media, so we now can email them and say, we know the Hernandez family has contacted you. We want to hear you cover the story. And if they get enough of these at the news tips, they will do it. They will do it. Guys, don't worry about whether they're in the office today or not. It would be funny to fill up all the voicemail. Yeah, it will be. Fill them all up. People need to care even when it's Christmas, people need to care about what's going on. And it's really frustrating for families who are dealing with this issue over the holidays because one, they're without their children over Christmas. And two, nobody does anything from now until after January. And that is so scary when you're in this situation. So let's not be those people. Let's be people who actually work over Christmas and we do something about it. All right, I'm going to call Senator Ossoff's office because I didn't get through to them when I wanted to. So let's open up my Google phone. All right. Punch in his number here. I think I will call his Atlanta office first. All right, here we go.
Hello, this is Senator John Ossoff, representing the state of Georgia. Thank you so much for contacting my state office. Serving you is my highest priority. So to leave a comment for me or a member of my staff, please press 1. And to speak with a member of my staff, please press 2.
2.
Wait while I transfer your call.
Thank you again so much for the call. Currently, all of my staff are assisting other.
All right, I'm going to call a different office. Let's try Washington. He has an Atlanta fax number too, by the way. We should try that. Let's try Washington, D.C.
Hello, this is Senator John Ossoff, representing the state of Georgia. Thank you so much for contacting my office in Washington.
Wait while I transfer your call.
Thank you again so much for the call. Currently, all of my staff are assisting other constituents.
All right,
or you've
fine. I'll
reached
leave a
us after business
message.
hours. Please leave a detailed message with your name, your email address, or your physical mailing address, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm calling from New York about the Hernandez family. I just wanted to say thank you to Senator Ossoff for his work on the Human Rights Subcommittee. I know he cares about people who are being mistreated by the foster care system, and the Hernandezes are in Forsyth County in his state, and I want him to look into that case. It is horrific. It's a medical kidnapping at the Children's Hospital of Atlanta. There's plenty of news reports about it. Please look up the Hernandez medical kidnapping case, Senator, because this is one you got to hear about, and I would appreciate it if you would do that. Anyway, thanks again for your help with looking into foster care. So many abuses, and it's good to see that you care. All right. That's enough. That's all you need to do when you fill up a voicemail. And all they need to hear is this Hernandez family, Hernandez family, Hernandez family. Just keep it up. Let's see. I think he has another number here. Hold on. Let me look. All right. The other numbers that I have for him are fax numbers. So let's try one of those and see if they go through. This one is the Atlanta one. Let's go to, what did I say the name of that fax one was? Fax0.com. All right. So you go to fax0.com. Looks like this. And you type in who it's going to, state of Georgia, fax number. And then I'm going to copy in my little letter that I wrote. I'll do my out-of-state one. Copy. Now, if you copy and paste these, remember to change the stuff in bold. Okay. My name is. Oh, and unbold it, obviously. You can do that right here. Concerned citizen from New York. The reason I'm writing, I heard what's happening in Forsyth County in the national press to the Hernandez family, and I'm deeply troubled. Your work on the Human Rights Subcommittee is admirable, and I thought you would care about this family. This case appears to be very poorly handled by the county and the Children's Hospital of Atlanta, who have ignored the evidence I should say Forsyth County, because it is two different counties involved, who have ignored the evidence of an underlying medical condition that may be the reason for unexplained fractures in baby Emma. Matt and Taki Hernandez have both been charged with child abuse on the word of CHOA child abuse pediatricians, while two specialists who believe the baby shows signs of brittle bone disease or other complex syndromes have been ignored. Child abuse pediatricians have a very poor reputation and track record for diagnosing abuse. The Maya Kowalski case should put every state on notice that counties and hospitals can be and will be held liable financially up to or beyond $261 million in damages for getting it wrong. Please stop the abuse of the Hernandez family and investigate the child's condition properly. While I cannot personally withhold my vote from you, I will do everything in my power to assist the people of Georgia to replace any elected official who does not act to help this family. On the other hand, if you do help this family, I will campaign for you. And I'm a Republican. He's a Democrat. I hate calling myself a Republican. I'm not really a Republican, but that's funny. What Georgia allows will trickle into other states. We need accountability for our state agencies and leadership that will investigate wrongdoing. Please contact the DA, Penny Penn. Can you believe that's her name? In charge of this case in Forsyth County, and make her explain her evidence and why they have ignored exculpatory evidence before she is allowed to charge the taxpayers to terrorize an innocent family. Thank you. And you got to put in this little confirmation code. And then you got to fill in this part. I got to put my phone number in here. Copy. Paste. Okay. Send free. Yes. Okay. Now I have to go over to my email and confirm, and it will send. And I'll let you know if this number works. But this is the way you got to do it. You got to call, you got to fax, you got to email. I know I'm on early today because my kids have a half day. So they're going to be back any minute. That's how it feels. They get on the bus, and when they have a half day, it's like, oh, I've got 2 hours or something, and then they're coming back. And then begins our Christmas vacation, which is, we're not going anywhere. We're just staying at home. All right, click on the URL. Clicking. Now sending fax. It will send me an email when it goes through. So let's hope that works. Okay. So, is there a unified group name we can use on Kemp's intake form? Advise by office, best way to get unified intake tally traction. Ooh. Well, a unified group name? Do we just make one up? Okay. How about Citizens Against Medical Kidnapping? What is that? What does that work out to? Citizens Against Medical Kidnapping. It's camp. We're camp. Citizens Against Medical Kidnapping. Or Parents Against Medical Kidnapping. No, just citizens. Medical. Nobody likes medical kidnapping. There we go. Yeah. Camp. I like it. I know, it's too bad it's not camp. Medical. What starts with a P? Medical. What's a word that starts with a P that could work? I can't think of one. It's CAMK. Camp. I mean, we could use Justice for the Hernandez family. Ooh, Citizens Against Medical Prosecution. Yeah, that spells camp. Medical poaching, medical prisoners. Yes, medical persecution. Oh, I like that. Citizens Against Medical Persecution. I like that a lot. Well, we got to pick one. I like medical persecution. I don't know. Should I put a poll up in the YouTube studio? Citizens Against Medical Prisoners. All right, but how can the group name be Hernandez? We can't just take their name, can we? Medical poaching. I mean, we may have to use this name again for somebody else, because they're going to do it to somebody else. All right, I'm starting a poll. What should our group name be? Is there another option? Let's see. What's the other option? Medical poaching. That's funny. Okay. Start poll. All right, go vote. Medical pirating. All right. All right, so this is the sheet, the call sheet that you're going to use. Hold on. Right here. And it is linked in the description, so you can go and start emailing and start calling and start doing all of those things to all of these people. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm going to send press inquiries at some point to some of these people. And we got to get a buzz going. Okay. And don't get discouraged. If you get voicemail, just leave messages. So far, CAMP is winning by 58%. Citizens Against Medical Persecution. I like it. I like it. We'll see. Sorry that you can't vote over there on Rumble. Yeah, I mean, it covers so many things, medical persecution, doesn't it? It covers medical kidnapping. It covers problems with consent, informed consent. It covers a lot of things. Citizens Against State-Sponsored Human Trafficking. That's another one that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. All right. All right. So I'm going to get started on, so you guys have this, I'll drop the link in the chats for those of you who are too lazy to go to the description. You know how I feel about laziness, but if you're going to be lazy, I'm not going to let you get away with it. Let's see. Where is... my fax succeeded. It succeeded. It succeeded. It went through. So I'm dropping the link for all of you guys in all the chats we have going. Let's see. Locals, where are you? Here you go. Locals. All right. And Rumble. There you go. Okay. Oh boy, Citizens Against Medical Persecution is now dropped down to 53%. What's the second biggest one? Oh no, it's still winning by a lot. Okay, I think that's the one that's going to win. All right, let's start playing. I want to play for you. It's a 3-hour thing. We're not going to get through the entire Senate hearing. However, there was a subcommittee hearing on December 14th, and that was the day that we first started calling Senator Ossoff, and I had no idea he was doing this at that time. He was literally in a Senate subcommittee hearing about protecting children in foster care. You could not make this up. Look at this. This happened in the Dirksen building in room 226. Now, I have no information on if this is the room that the amateur porn video was made in the Senate chamber, in the Senate, one of the judiciary rooms. It could have been this one. It could have been on that desk for all we know. I hope that that's not the case, because that was a scandal and a half. But that was not the mental picture I needed right now. All right, let's play this. Here we go.
By letting everybody know that there's a vote on the floor right now, senators with a variety of other obligations. But we know, Ms. Gaston, that you've got a hard stop after about an hour. So we're going to go ahead and begin.
There's a whole bunch of other senators who have other obligations. They're banging their interns in the showers right now.
And members will come and go.
I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to do this. But now that I've mentioned it, I can't get it out of my head. Oh, no.
That's what she said. Phrasing.
Throughout the hearing. 8 months ago, the subcommittee opened a bipartisan inquiry into the safety and human rights of children in foster care across the United States, because protecting America's most vulnerable children from abuse and neglect is a moral imperative. We're talking about the most vulnerable children in the United States. Children who have been abused and neglected, children who have been trafficked. And for these children, state foster agencies are meant to be a sanctuary, a safe haven, and often a last resort. Naturally, I take the greatest interest and have the highest obligation in and to children in my home state of Georgia. And as a result, the subcommittee, as part of this inquiry, has undertaken a deep dive case study into the safety of foster care in Georgia, where we have found significant evidence that children have been left vulnerable to abuse.
I'm sorry, the super chat's making me laugh. Hanang Hero, she has a hard stop. Okay, I'll see myself out.
Phrasing.
Extra large and extra hard.
All right, I'm going to try not to be a juvenile today. This is not funny. This is not funny at all. Allison Haney, thanks to the super chat, says, Megan, do you want me to peer through Ossoff's window to see if he's dodging your calls? Ossoff's a friendly 8-minute neighbor. Absolutely, Allison. If you can go over to his office and knock on his door and talk to a staffer and just tell them what's happening, that would be fantastic. If someone actually showed up in person while they're getting these calls and everything else, I mean, they will know that people are watching, that people care. And that's what they need to know, because this is their job. Nothing we are doing here is out of the norm. This is how our system works. This is how we don't pick up pitchforks and torches or guns and go down and get what we want. No, we pick up the phone, we send letters, and you'll be surprised how quickly they listen when they get enough phone calls. That's why I want to keep encouraging you to keep calling. I don't care if you call him 10 times a day. Call him 10 times a day. Call him 20 times a day. If 200 people called him 3 times a day, it's over. They will move. They will do. And he cares about this. This is like his major action item right now.
And neglect, where children have been trafficked, harmed after being placed with unfit caregivers.
Yes, they have been.
Placed in isolation in conditions akin to solitary confinement at group homes. And the subcommittee recognizes that these represent national dynamics and trends and challenges that impact the safety and welfare of vulnerable children across the country. So today we're going to dive deeper into the federal government's efforts and responsibilities to protect children in foster care from abuse, from neglect, from sex trafficking, hearing from distinguished witnesses representing the Department of Health and Human Services and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We will hear first from Rebecca Jones-Gaston, who is the Commissioner of HHS Administration for Children and Families and the previous Director of Child Welfare for the state of Oregon. Commissioner, again, we know you have other commitments this afternoon, and we will work to accommodate your schedule and appreciate your attendance. And after Commissioner Jones-Gaston, we will hear from Deputy Assistant Director Jose Perez of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who helped lead Operation Cross Country, which recovered 200 victims of sex trafficking, many of them children who had gone missing. If the witnesses would please rise and raise your right hands so you can be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before the subcommittee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witness has answered in the affirmative.
How sad that there's only like 20 people in this room. It should be packed. And I'm very upset that Marsha Blackburn didn't show up. I know he said that they had other, obligations, but he appears to be the only senator on this subcommittee that is here today. Do you see any other senators who are on this subcommittee actually there? Shame on you, Blackburn. Shame on you, Marsha. Somebody we need to put Marsha Blackburn's office up on here, because I know she's in Tennessee, but she's on this committee. She knows Senator Ossoff, and maybe she should know about the Hernandezes too, because maybe they'll talk about it at the next coffee clutch or whatever the hell they do in the Senate. Well, I guess they don't get coffee together. They get ball gags and stuff, right? Is that what they do in the Senate?
Extra large and extra hard.
I'm not going to be able to stop myself from the Senate jokes. I mean, they like it from behind. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
That's what she said.
Please take your seats. And Commissioner Jones-Gaston, we will begin with your opening statement when you're ready. And just a reminder, both, to please ensure that the red light under your microphone
Look,
is
he
illuminated.
is the only
when you
senator
wish to speak. Thank you.
present. He is the only. He's the head of the subcommittee, and he's the only person there. That is so disappointing. Shame on them. This is such a big issue, and they couldn't even be bothered to show up. Shame on them. I really want to know what Marsha Blackburn was doing instead of being at this thing. Let's see. Senate Subcommittee meeting. No, Senate Subcommittee on Human Rights 2023. I want to know who all the members are. All right. Witnesses. No, I need to know who's on it. Committee activity, hearings. So I want to know who's on the committee. About. Aha. The chair. I know who the committee. Who's on it? Gosh darn it. Why do they make this so difficult? About the I know who the chair is. Who's the ranking member? Oh, Lindsey Graham? Well, he's definitely in the shower with somebody. That's why he's not there. But I didn't think he was actually on. What's the ranking member mean? Is that I don't know how the Senate works. The memberships. Okay, membership. Committee members. No, this is the Committee on the Judiciary. That's the wrong committee. Oh, Ossoff's on that one too. So that's interesting. That's a good committee to be on. All right, it looks like Marsha Blackburn, Josh Hawley. But I can't tell which committee we're looking at here. All right, hold on. Hold on. I have to find this out. I'll show you what I'm doing here. Because look, this says the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary, but I looked up human rights, and that's what happened. I got the judiciary, and that's... No. Okay. Senate Subcommittee, Human Rights. Yeah, not the judiciary. We want the Subcommittee on Human Rights. There we go. Aha. John Ossoff. Dianne Feinstein. Isn't she dead? Didn't she die? Well, she has an excuse. Richard Blumenthal. I cracked myself up. Richard Blumenthal. Peter Welch from Vermont. Marsha Blackburn. John Kennedy. I love Kennedy. He's so funny, but why isn't he there? And Josh Hawley. All right, I'm going to get Blackburn, Kennedy's, and all the rest of these people's information up on the call sheet while we're watching this. Okay. Oh, you're not even seeing this. Whoops. Here we go. I'm going to get all their information up while we are watching this on the call sheet. We need to call all of these people because they are on except for Dianne Feinstein, because she's gone. She's, God rest her soul. She's not around anymore. But we can call all these other people. And I think that we should give them a little bit of shit for not being at this event on the 14th. I think the first thing we should do is ask them why they didn't show up. Yeah, they probably had other committee meetings the same day, but I would sure like some of these people to take this issue seriously. I would sure like them to show up.
Chairman Ossoff, Ranking Member Blackburn, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today on behalf of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I'm Rebecca Jones-Gaston, Commissioner for the Administration for Children, Youth, and Family.
Too fast. She is a quick talker. I'm going to have to slow that down. Holy crap. She is a fast talker. That's good for us because she's representing Department of Children and Family Services
within the Administration for Children and Families.
Uh-huh.
Thank you also for the years of strong bipartisan support and partnership on child welfare prevention efforts, which provided the foundation for and enabled the passage of the Family First Prevention Services Act, FFPSA. ACYF is committed to supporting parents, caregivers, and children through holistic and proactive approaches.
I don't believe that.
That focus on keeping families together and preventing unnecessary involvement with the foster care system. I hear routinely from young people and families that have experienced the child welfare system that many families could have stayed safely together if support for their concrete needs had been met. As part of our commitment to advance prevention and family preservation, the lived experience of families who've encountered the system will continue to be informing our policies and our programs. We're working with states and tribes to shift the focus of the child welfare systems, helping them implement Family First and promoting cross-system collaborations that recognize the child welfare system alone cannot support family well-being. This effort will take time and cannot be done solely at the federal level.
Let me guess, you need more money.
The President's fiscal year 2024 budget, including proposals to reauthorize, increase funding for, and amend the Promoting Safe and Stable Families Act, Title 4B of the Social Security
Act, want
more
money,
and the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act, would expand and provide incentives for the use of the Title 4E Prevention Services Program and provide additional support for tribes and support youth who are at risk or victims of commercial sexual exploitation and human trafficking. ACYF's Children's Bureau provides leadership to improve the safety, permanency, and well-being of children and families. We partner with federal, state, and local agencies, as well as tribal nations, directing the implementation of monitoring.
Ask the tribal nations what they think of DCF. Let's go ask them, shall we? Let's go ask the tribal nations how they feel about what DCF has done to them. It's so bad in the tribal nations that they've had to write laws to keep DCF's little nasty fingers out of their tribe, out of the tribes. Yeah, the tribal nations, the Native Americans, they have their own laws, but DCF comes in and steals their children and puts them with white people. So now there are laws, which is exactly what they were doing to the Native Americans, 200 years ago. That was so awful. And so now they have to when they take children from tribal nations, they have to keep them in the nation with other members of the tribe. But ask the tribal nations how they feel about these people. It's not good.
Data systems designed to assess and ensure.
We're frozen.
Tribal grant recipients.
What's happening?
States and the courts meet established standards and outcomes for the federal child protection, adoption, and foster care and guardianship programs. We participate in a variety of activities to carry out this mission, such as funding essential services, supporting innovation, sharing research, offering training and technical assistance, and monitoring child welfare services.
Nobody monitors them.
And working with states, tribes, territories to improve child welfare delivery, achieve positive outcomes for children and families, and ensure that every child and youth has a family and permanency. The Children's Bureau regional offices conduct ongoing joint planning with states and tribes for the development of the strategic 5-year Child and Family Services Plan and updates through the annual Progress and Services Report.
I don't like her face. Just saying. I don't believe anything coming out of her mouth.
Regional offices provide direct technical assistance to grant recipients and, in partnership with other divisions, conduct the Child and Family Services Review, otherwise known as CFSR, Title 4E eligibility under the Social Security Act, and other reviews. One of the most impactful means by which we assist states in ensuring the safety, permanency, and well-being of children and families they serve is through regulatory action. In September of 2023, the Biden-Harris administration issued a final kinship rule and 2 proposed rules that, once implemented, will have profound impacts on child well-being in the child welfare systems in America. These 3 rules are designed to remove barriers to keeping families together. Where eligible, allow for reimbursement for legal representation to help stabilize families and reduce the need for more formal child welfare system.
Did you hear that? They're finally going to do something about giving them money for legal representation. I'll believe it when I see it, ma'am. I'll believe it when I see it. I've never believed. Can you believe? People don't believe that people whose kids get taken away aren't entitled to a lawyer, but they aren't. They have to pay for it themselves. And now you're hearing this woman say, oh, and there's this new thing that the Biden signed that they're going to be given some money for legal representation. Yeah, what legal representation?
You are fake news.
Involvement, including fairness in the child welfare system.
There's no fairness.
You are
improve
fake
safe
news.
and appropriate placements for all youth.
Wrong.
Collectively, along with the Family First Act, these rulemakings represent
Signed by
perhaps
Trump.
the most substantial advances in the child welfare in a generation.
The Child First
Thank
Act,
you.
I mean, the Family First Act, by the way, isn't even followed by these people. They just ignore it.
For the opportunity to discuss ACYF's mission
I hope he rips her a new
and
one.
work. I look forward to working with Congress as part of our shared collective efforts to ensure the safety, permanency,
Ask her some hard
and well-being
questions.
of children and families, and happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones-Gaston. We will now hear from you, Deputy Assistant Director Perez.
It's not me. It's this video.
Good afternoon, Chairman
Keeps
Ossoff,
stopping.
Ranking Member Blackburn, members of the Subcommittee.
Oh, she's there. Marsha got there. She got there late. All right, we can stop.
Thank you for the opportunity
asking
to come
her
to
where
you
she was.
here
She's
today
there.
to speak about an important topic, human trafficking, which includes sexual exploitation of children and sex trafficking. My name is Jose Perez. I'm the Deputy Assistant Director in the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division.
And I found that the government and child welfare are doing this and we should stop. Is that what he's going to say? I hope so, but I doubt it.
Under my investigative responsibilities, I have our violent crime program, transnational organized crime program, and also more specifically for today, the Crimes Against Children program. We at the FBI have no more important mission than protecting the most vulnerable among us, especially children. This work is a priority in all our 56 field offices around the country. We can't stop human trafficking alone, so we partner closely with numerous state, federal, and local law enforcement agencies, as well as non-governmental and nonprofit agencies on the front lines to address the threat across all angles and provide valuable victim assistance as one coordinated team. Human trafficking or trafficking in persons is a crime in which a person is exploited for labor, services, or commercial sex acts. It occurs in every region of the United States and throughout the world, and is perpetrated by an array of actors from individual criminals to more structured criminal organizations. Often trafficking occurs together with other criminal conduct, such as financial crimes, narcotics trafficking, online sexual exploitation of children, sextortion, and other types of crimes of violence. Sex trafficking of adults includes the recruitment, solicitation, and transportation of a person for the purpose of commercial sex, facilitated through force, fraud, or coercion. Any exploitation of a minor for commercial sex is human trafficking, and child sex trafficking does not need to involve any type of proven physical force or coercion. Similarly, labor trafficking also includes the recruitment, harboring, and transportation of a person, but for the purpose of subjection to forced labor or involuntary servitude. Labor trafficking can occur in any industry and is prevalent in agriculture, domestic work, construction, landscaping, factories, and manufacturing. Human traffickers come from a wide variety of backgrounds and demographic categories and are oftentimes facilitated by criminal enterprises and transnational criminal organizations. Criminal enterprises often operate in plain sight and can go undetected for decades, affecting hundreds of victims before being identified. Victims often do not leave their situations because they fear their traffickers or have a distrust towards law enforcement or a lack of understanding of their basic rights. Trafficking can affect anyone regardless of age, race, sex, or ethnicity. Still, vulnerable populations tend to be at higher risk for being trafficked. Traffickers can and will identify and exploit vulnerabilities, and they often control their victims' resources, their safety, their living and working conditions. Traffickers can also have access to services that can exert power over their victims. The FBI investigates all forms of human trafficking, including child sex trafficking, regardless of the victim's age or nationality. But as I mentioned, we can't do it alone. We work with our external partners, primarily National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC. We have personnel embedded not only to identify and locate victims, but also to help hold the subjects accountable who are victimizing children. Social welfare agencies are often some of our best partners in identifying trafficking schemes as well. We collaborate with these organizations through multidisciplinary teams, which are comprised of different entities working together to coordinate forensic interviews, medical exams, counseling, and other services. Additionally, we combat human trafficking and child exploitation by working with our federal, state, and local partners. Through the FBI's more than 85 child exploitation and human trafficking task forces spread out around the country amongst our 56 field offices, consisting of hundreds of FBI agents and over 800 task force officers. This approach has yielded many positive results. Just this month in Los Angeles, a man was sentenced to life in prison for recruiting teenage girls and an adult for commercial sex work. The subject advertised victims for commercial sex on websites and facilitated responses to online ads by arranging in-person meetings with their victims. The subject victimized at least 3 minor girls and used threats of force and coercion to traffic a young adult, all for his own profit. The Los Angeles Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force coordinated with several law enforcement agencies and NCMEC throughout this case.
Ooh, Blumenthal has
Still,
a
we're
fax
working
number.
to build more relationships
Yay.
and provide training to private organizations because awareness is key and the problem is not contained. Each of the FBI's 56 field offices receives regular complaints regarding human trafficking and child exploitation. We're also part of the ongoing DOJ Forced Labor Working Group, as well as other working groups aimed at executing the White House's National Action Plan to combat human trafficking. We also have an entire division devoted to victim services and a cadre of victim specialists who are key to integrating victim-centered services in all of our federal investigations. Members of the subcommittee, we appreciate your support in this realm. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. And before I ask questions, I'll yield in a moment to Ranking Member Blackburn for her opening statement. I just want to say before I do that I have observed few members of the Senate who have demonstrated a more sustained commitment to child protection and the prevention of child trafficking than Senator Blackburn. And we identified early in this Congress that the protection of vulnerable children was an important shared priority. We've also collaborated with the introduction of the Filling Public Safety Vacancies Act to empower local law enforcement with the resources they need, and are now working together to try to pass our Report Act, which would, Mr. Perez, as you alluded to, empower NCMEC to provide law enforcement agencies with more and better information to prosecute online child exploitation. So I thank Ranking Member Blackburn for her collaboration and participation, and yield to you now, Senator, for your opening statement.
Well, and thank you for that. And yes, I think our Report Act is scheduled to go on the hotline today. So, and it already has a House sponsor. I want to thank each of you for being here. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for the hearing and for building this out a little bit. Mr. Perez, I so appreciated your remarks. And we're doing this at a time that I think so many people have lost sight of how important it is to protect children. And to your point, Mr. Perez, how important it is to go after these traffickers. And they're out there, you know, they exist.
Start with
they're
DCF.
on social media. And NCMEC is trying to go after them. And it is vitally important that we go after these traffickers and these people that are making a profit off of going after the most.
All right, I see. She showed up. I said we can stop complaining that she wasn't there.
Vulnerable among us. And I know the chairman knows, some of you may know, for the last several weeks, I've been trying to figure out and to subpoena the records for Jeffrey Epstein's plane.
Good.
To find out who was on that plane. I've been so disappointed that Chairman Durbin has continued to
How about the
block
customer book?
this. because
Durbin is doing
Jeffrey
that?
Epstein
That makes
had
sense.
probably what is the most high profile sex trafficking ring we've ever seen, ever heard about. It was high profile, high dollar people that were predators.
I would just like to point out
these
that I do not believe that Marsha Blackburn is suicidal. just pointing that out. If Marsha Blackburn turns up dead, she didn't kill herself.
young girls. And I don't know why there is a push to block these records. We need to have access to this. We need
You
to
don't know why?
who was on that
I know
plane,
why.
who was participating in this. They redacted those records in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. But getting to the bottom of this is important. And as we talk about protecting children and providing for them and the role of the federal government in this, for goodness sakes, let's try to figure out what HHS has done with 85,000 migrant children and where they are, whose hands they are in, the labor trafficking that you talked about. I find it unconscionable that 85,000 children we cannot find justice. I find it unconscionable that Chairman Durbin would have continued to block my request to subpoena those flight logs. But we appreciate so much that y'all are here today. And Mr. Chairman, your leadership on these issues, I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn, and certainly we will ensure that our witnesses have the opportunity, should they wish, and should Senator Blackburn ask to respond to those points. I want to begin, Commissioner Jones-Gaston, discussing the role that HHS plays in protecting foster children across the country. The Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act requires child welfare agencies to have procedures to receive, screen, and investigate reports of child abuse and neglect, and requires those states to include child sex trafficking in their definition of abuse and neglect. How does HHS ensure that state child welfare agencies screen in victims of child sex trafficking in practice and not just as a matter of policy on paper?
So the oversight of child welfare agencies across the country that are 4E agencies receiving federal funds from the Children's Bureau, we have a oversight process called the Child and Family Services Review. And that process is...
Who is this Wish.com Oprah? Dopra? That was funny on Hung Hero. Thanks to the super chat. And also good old Dickhead Durbin. I think we used to call him Dick Turban. I don't remember why. It had something to do with something he said on the House floor that was ridiculous. But, you know, that sounds like... Durbin used to be my senator in Illinois. I moved out of there, and now I have an equally terrible senator. I don't even know who my senator is. It's maybe Gillibrand? Is that right? I'm actually not sure. Oh, it might be that Schumer, Chuck Schumer. Oh God.
Involves case review.
Yes.
Data review and interviews with young people, community members,
Anybody
parents
buying this?
that are involved in the cases that are being reviewed. That's the primary mechanism for oversight in the long term. States are also required to have a Title IV-E plan that they've submitted, and that includes the policies and procedures that they have in place that adhere and follow federal law and regulation. And those plans are reviewed and approved at the Children's Bureau.
Bullshit.
I appreciate that. And where I want to press a little bit further here is having a plan or a policy documented on paper is an important start. If there are failures to implement those plans or policies, if it's policy without effective practice, then the objective of ensuring that vulnerable children are protected may not be achieved. Are there tools in statute or in practice that HHS either has or lacks to ensure, for example, that this requirement that child sex abuse cases be screened in and not screened out upon a report or an allegation, that these policies are implemented? Or do you need more tools in order to ensure that those policies are implemented?
So when the requirement came out that child abuse, that calls to the hotline that indicated concerns around trafficking needed to be screened in, efforts were made in providing technical assistance and support to jurisdictions to understand what the law is and make plans for how they were going to implement that practice. Some required state legislative action, some required regulatory action at the state level. ACF has the overarching federal rules and regulations. Each state actually runs their child welfare system and has their definition of what child abuse and neglect are. So I want to make sure that's clear. And then through the Child and Family Services review that I spoke about is one mechanism for review. We have regional offices that do joint planning with agencies in regards to how they are implementing the requirements that exist federally, and technical assistance mechanisms that are available and provided to state agencies regarding workforce training, ability to connect with others that have already made changes in regards to those rules and regulations. And again, through the review process, or if an issue gets raised up to us, there is then the process of possibly doing partial reviews where we're going in and seeing in a case review process if the federal rules and regulations are being followed.
Who's reviewing these case reviews? They are.
We'll dig
The
in a little
Fox
bit
is
more,
watching the
on
hen
that
house.
in a moment. First, I want to.
You need outside reviewers, Ossoff.
Children who are reported missing or who run away and are recovered. Federal law requires state child welfare agencies to have policies and procedures in place to screen children who were recovered after running away from foster care. And the purpose of that screening is to determine whether they were victims of sex trafficking and to provide appropriate services. A 2022 HHS Inspector General audit examining the records of children who were recovered after going missing from care across 5 states found that in most cases reviewed, there was no evidence that these children had received the required screening. My question for you is, how does HHS work with states to improve compliance with those screening requirements?
Well, first of all, the safety of children is priority for us. And we are working really closely with our partners in the Office of Trafficking in Persons, and just last year issued an information memorandum.
Oh, an information memorandum.
Identified again the
Wonderful.
requirements that exist, but also resources for training, and then doing.
Ma'am, did you know that the state of Georgia lost 1,700 children? They lost them. Did you issue a memorandum on that? Did you know that the state of Missouri lost over 1,000 children? And a bunch of them were found in sex trafficking situations. Where's your memorandum? Did you have a memorandum on that?
What would you say you do here?
Technical assistance through our regional offices to ensure that states have the appropriate policies and practices in place, and identifying technical assistance in their development of the various assessment tools that they have, and in working in close partnership with our OTIP partners in regards to continuing to provide training and learning opportunities for the 4E agencies that we serve.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about NCMEC, and we'll get into this with the FBI as well. But Commissioner, under federal law, of course, state foster care agencies are required to report children missing from care to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, as well as to the National Crime Information Center. But an HHS OIG audit from March of 2023, reviewing data collected from 46 state child welfare agencies across the country, found that 45% of the missing child episodes in the review sample
Oh, here we go. He's
Example,
going to talk about
were
the
never
missing
reported
kids.
by states to
That's right.
NCMEC. So how can HHS and how does HHS work with these state agencies to improve their compliance with the requirement that there be reporting to NCMEC of children missing from care?
So one of the mechanisms that we've done is issue information Miranda and program guidance in regards to the requirements.
What does that even mean?
And through our regional offices, then doing review to make sure that the 4E agencies have the appropriate processes in place and offering then technical assistance in areas where they identify they need assistance in improving practice in regards to their workforce. And again, working really closely with our OTIP partners in making sure that we are providing assistance.
Wrong.
Technical assistance, and
None
awareness out
sense.
to the 4E agencies regarding the tools that are available,
Flux,
and the technical assistance.
That is so weird. So Flux, you're saying you heard this woman, Rebecca Jones, interviewed by some podcast saying it was only because Maya won because she's pretty and white. How weird that these two stories overlap. Are you sure it was her, Rebecca Jones Gaston? Are you sure? Like, what would she be doing on a podcast talking about Maya Kowalski? Was she defending? Well, she is a DCF person. What podcast is this? And do you have the link? Send it to me, Flux.
That's available so that they can be working on improving their practice.
Let's talk about the medication of children in foster care. So to receive
this is a
funding
big deal.
for child welfare services, states are required to have a plan for the oversight of prescription medications, including psychotropic and opioid medications.
They're drugging the shit out of the kids there.
Foster care. A 2018 HHS OIG review for a sample of foster children in 5 states found that 1 in 3 children in foster care who were treated with psychotropic medications did not receive the required treatment planning or medication monitoring. What is HHS doing? What can HHS do to appropriately and adequately monitor the use of psychotropic medication and the state policies and procedures and practices governing the medication of children with psychotropic drugs?
The Child and Family Services Plan, which is the 5-year plan that we do joint planning with state agencies in, is one place where they are required to report what their plans and strategies are for managing the care of the children that they are over. And then there are annual progress review reports that are submitted. And so through that and the relationship with the regional offices and the technical assistance that we provide, in addition to the Child and Family Services review, which is a periodic review, is opportunity for us to have conversations and dig in with jurisdictions about what their practice looks like, how they're doing, and what assistance
It doesn't sound to me like you're doing much of anything,
improve.
lady. It doesn't sound to me like she's doing much of anything. Does it sound like she's doing anything to you? She's got stuff, a 5-year plan. She's having conversations that, are conveniently not recorded. What exactly would you say you do here, ma'am?
You do here.
Or if they need assistance in identifying examples of policies and procedures that they.
He just said, ma'am, DCF is supposed to be monitoring psychotropic drugs that you're giving the children in your care. And we see that you're not doing it. So what can you do to make sure that this is getting done? And her answer is, we have a 5-year plan. We're writing stuff down. We have things on information sheets. Like what is she even saying? And I wish he would interrupt her and say, stop it. You're not answering the question. You are not monitoring the drug intake of these children that you have responsibility for. Now, who's in charge of that? And why isn't it getting done? Yeah, nothing about kids, just the government governmenting. Golly, this is annoying.
They need to implement at the state level.
Thank you. And the subcommittee's heard substantial concern from advocates, attorneys, as well as former foster youth about over-medication and the appropriate use of opioids and psychotropic medication for foster children. So we'll want to dig in a little more deeply there. At this time, I would yield to Ranking Member Blackburn for her first round of questions.
Come on, Marcia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I'm so pleased that you brought
Get
up
harder
the
on
process
her.
of vetting these sponsors,
Extra large
because
and extra
this
hard.
is something that causes us a tremendous amount of concern, and something that news reports have covered. And periodically we will read about people that are improperly vetted. And of course, the issue we have right now with the 85,000 migrant children who cannot be found. And much of that,
I'm sorry, what?
We've seen.
Did she say 80,000 migrant children? Yeah, objection, non-responsive. 80,000 migrant children. I knew that was a sex trafficking operation. I mean, it's obviously, it's clear. They're just bringing kids over the border and then they disappear.
Reports of these children working in factories. We have seen reports of these children being in processing plants, food processing plants. So they're being used for labor. So Ms. Gaston, I know it's a little bit too much to do in a hearing and a 5-minute questioning. But what I would like for you to submit to the record is what you send to the states as best practices for vetting these individuals, and also the amount of time that generally is spent on vetting these people who are going to be sponsors. These are vulnerable children, and they are expecting
They're not
someone
vetting shit
to take care of them. And the fact that it is a check the box process, as has been reported in some instances, I think we should all hope that we do better than that for these children. So if you will submit that for the record, I would appreciate that.
So ACF is absolutely committed to the safety and well-being of the children that are served through our programs. ACYF has a purview over the child welfare system. My colleagues at the Office of Refugee Resettlement have purview over the sponsors that I believe you're speaking to. And I will be working with them to make sure the information that you're requesting is submitted.
We need to have that for the record, because there should be a best practices. And we should not read more reports about children who are being used for child labor, children that are being put in sex trafficking rings, children who have sponsors who are improperly vetted and abuse them. We can do better than that. So thank you. Mr. Perez,
No,
let me come
Marcia,
to you
they can't do better
for
than that.
a moment.
You're wrong. They can't do
I've talked
better.
a little bit about the
They're
need
incompetent.
for us to
They're
have
evil.
more transparency, more accountability, more common sense solutions. And as we look at the persistence of trafficking, and especially the sex trafficking that takes place of children, and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations gave me a stat. Once every 2 minutes, a child in this country is bought or sold for sex.
Good God.
Once every 2 minutes. These are little ones. So when we talk about the things that are wrong, whether it's the migrant children, whether it's the foster children, whether it is children that are being recruited and groomed, if you were on this side of the dais and you said, here are some immediate things that you could do, what would you encourage? Where would you encourage us to go first?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I would say, number one, when we're talking about resources, there's kind of a few lanes with that. We can always do more with more resources. We always want to be strategic with what we have and make sure we're implementing and aligning those resources properly. If I was going to point to one thing, one of our biggest challenges when we're talking about human trafficking, and I touched on some links to transnational organized crime, or let's say more sophisticated criminal actors operating in some organized fashion. Our biggest challenge across the board is the ability to defeat end-to-end encryption. traditionally our recipe for success in defeating criminal actors really across the board historically. Lawfully identifying an organization, identifying ways to exploit communications, money movements, those kinds of things, and through lawful access, through legal process from the court, obtain proper information from communications, those kinds of things. The ability to move to end-to-end encryption does not really require that much level of sophistication. Many off-the-shelf applications accessible to children are end-to-end encrypted. Our inability to exercise use of legal process to obtain that information, to identify the proper means and methods of a criminal organization to then defeat it, are incredibly hampered by the use of end-to-end encryption.
So having the Report Act pass, which would require, would enable NCMEC to hold things that come in on the cyber tip line longer, would be helpful.
Generally, ma'am, we try not to comment on pending legislation, but again, any ability to allow us use of proper legal authority would be beneficial.
That sounds good. Now, when you talk about transnational crime and identifying organizations, I've got to bring this forward again because I asked Director Ray about this a couple of weeks ago when he was before us. And we've got one of the biggest, most well-known, most high-profile sex trafficking rings ever in this Jeffrey Epstein case. And Director Ray didn't give me a very complete answer when I asked about transparency around that case and about releasing those flight logs so we can know who all else is involved in this. And you talk about the need to get information
She is determined
from these organizations.
By the way, what she's doing right now has nothing to do really with what they're talking about. I mean, it kind of does, but what she's really trying to do is get a news clip of her calling out Dick Durbin for sitting on the flight logs. Like I'm getting a little tired of it, Marcia. Move on.
And information.
We're never
from
going to
the
get that
court.
information. We're never going to get it. Okay? They're all involved. You're probably talking to a guy who's been there. You're never going to get any of this.
Why would you not release these flight logs?
You know why.
Would there be a protection of not going after
the Clintons are on the list
releasing this information? Why would you not make public that information? Why would you not make public all of the video that has been captured from Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach townhouse, which the FBI has?
Ma'am, I'm aware of the interaction with Director Ray from, I believe, last week or the week before. Our team would be happy to work on any formal responses. I'm not aware of any subpoenas that have come to the FBI for formal requests, but
No, you haven't gotten a subpoena because the chairman ended up adjourning twice before I could bring forward my request for a subpoena. But you're talking about the need to get this information from these groups. And here you have a group, an organization, and we can't get the information. And it is just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous,
that we
but you're never
are
going to get it, Marcia.
sitting here. We have laws on the books. We have expectations of agencies, and we have a need for information. You've got it. We can't get it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ranking Member Blackburn. I want to continue, Mr. Perez, the discussion about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. According to data from NCMEC's website, in 2022, there were 359,000 entries into the NCIC database for missing children. 359,000. How does the FBI track and prioritize which missing child cases are federally investigated? What is the burden sharing between local, state, and federal agencies when those reports come in? And how do you decide what gets escalated, what gets referred, and who the lead agency is for a particular case?
Thank you, sir. We receive information or allegations, if you will, of a kidnapping from a variety of different elements. It could be from a private citizen, it could be from local law enforcement, or from NCMEC. Reports of missing children might not necessarily equate to something that gives us judicial authority or statutory authority to investigate. Usually how we identify and prioritize these would be if there's indication of a child of tender years, 12 and under, who's gone missing based on some type of suspicious circumstances, with some indication that it was involuntary or that they're being held against their will, or that they were again taken for an environment against their will and being held, then that is something we would immediately deploy resources to. Usually in these instances, local police are usually the first responders, if you will, in this instance, where a family member or a victim of the child would probably call local law enforcement. We would immediately engage in those situations. We have regularly. I've been a part of a number of those. And when it's a child of tender years, really regardless if there's an immediate identification of some type of suspicious circumstances, we will launch resources to embed with the local police to make that determination. Oftentimes this could be a runaway situation, but we want to vet that out and work with our local partners. So as far as a lead agency, that can kind of ebb and flow. We will work continuously with our local partners through our task forces or otherwise to determine really just the best avenue ultimately for prosecution. But in those instances, when a child has gone missing under truly suspicious circumstances where we believe it's a kidnapping, that is a all hands on deck scenario for an entire FBI field division potentially, where we're going to work and really put our badges to the side regardless of the department. And the number one priority there is the recovery of that child, secondarily making sure we identify the subject and hold them accountable.
I appreciate that breakdown, and it's instructive. I would note that last month, NCMEC testified before this subcommittee that children who go missing from foster care are especially vulnerable
No
to being
shit.
trafficked. And we've heard from experts, advocates, attorneys who represent victims of child sex exploitation and trafficking, who have testified to the particular vulnerability of foster children to trafficking. You testified in your opening statement that each of the FBI's 56 field offices have received complaints about human trafficking, reports of human trafficking, and that the FBI is working to build more relationships and awareness. Talk about what that means. How are relationships and awareness a piece of this enforcement and investigation process?
So the relationship piece, sir, really goes across all our programs and violations, if you will, at a field office level. So we continually look to engage with our federal, state, local law enforcement partners to identify violations, human trafficking, child exploitation, really a variety of threats, if you will, that we can offer assistance. So whether there is an immediate federal nexus or not, we're
All right. I just want to let you know that I have updated the call sheet now has all the members of the Senate Subcommittee on Human Rights who are looking into foster care. All of their phone numbers, fax numbers, emails, if they had emails, are there. You may start calling them immediately. Now, if you guys want to call in and let me know if you get any response or if you've had a conversation, I will take your calls while we're listening to this. And I want to hear about what have you done today? Who have you called? And how did that go? So I'm going to open up my phone. And if you guys want to call in, it's 617-858-5369, 617-8585 Fox. You can call it. Please call in to let me know how your phone calls and action are going today.
We're always looking to provide resources to local law enforcement. In addition to that, we regularly engage through private sector outreach and interactions with non-government agencies or organizations who might have access to information or might be what we would refer to as a tripwire, an element where someone can.
Princess Jasmine says, so do we need to get in touch with the FBI field office for a medical kidnapping? No, they won't do anything. They'll say it's not our jurisdiction. We have nothing to do with it. They won't listen. They have nothing. They won't do anything.
provide us advance real-time notice of some type of threat. So we do that through our field offices. We have a section of partner engagement. We have a number of entities throughout the field offices and at headquarters that really drives interaction with private sector, with non-government entities. Our victim services division expends a lot of time working with local police departments to try to build that relationship to when we do identify victims of a federal crime to make sure we're providing proper victim services. So I would say that's regular engagement. On the human trafficking piece, we're also working to really share best practices on prosecutions, on investigations, so that we can be better at investigating, holding people accountable, prosecuting these cases, and then providing the necessary services to the victims. So we do that, again, through communication and collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Commissioner Jones-Gaston, we discussed earlier in this hearing some of the requirements, standards, conditions of receiving federal support.
I just want to
for
bring this
state
article
governments.
to your attention that Rumble just reminded me of. It is on Yahoo, and I would like to read through this a little bit. Child sex abuse cases no longer priority for FBI amid January 6th investigation, whistleblower claims. So while you're listening to this federal investigator from the FBI tell you how important it is to them, let's read this. This is just from 2022. The FBI is sidelining investigations into child SA in order to pursue January 6 probes and is inflating the number of domestic extremism cases across the country. Hilariously, this made it onto Yahoo News. I don't know how. Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee claimed in a letter Monday citing whistleblowers. The committee's letter was spearheaded by ranking member Jim Jordan and was addressed to FBI Director Christopher Wray. It comes on the heels of another committee letter that cited whistleblowers claiming the FBI was pressuring agents to label cases as domestic violent extremism, even when they didn't meet the criteria for the definition. One whistleblower cited in the letter was told that child SA abuse material investigations were no longer an FBI priority and should be referred to local law enforcement agencies due to the Bureau's focus on January 6th, the letter claimed. Such a posture is not only a dereliction of the FBI's mission to investigate violations of federal laws, but it is a grave disservice to the victims of child SA and other crimes that do not advance the FBI leadership's political agenda, Jordan said. The same whistleblower stated that the FBI was using its Washington field office to redirect January 6 cases to field offices in various states while still handling the cases from Washington, D.C., in order to create the illusion that domestic extremism is rife across the country. The manipulative case file practice creates false and misleading crime statistics instead of hundreds of investigations stemming from a single black swan incident at the Capitol. FBI and DOJ officials point to significant increases in domestic violent extremism and terrorism around the United States, the whistleblower said. A host of Democrats have claimed that domestic terrorism is the biggest threat to the U.S. is facing. President Joe Biden said last year,
"You know, I can't deal with this. I'm going to nuke America."
Not that. Maybe it was this.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
That's the one. That's the one. President Joe Biden said last year that domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland, and has echoed that sentiment in more recent speeches. Attorney General Merrick Garland has also highlighted the alleged threat, saying the number of open FBI domestic terrorism investigations this year has increased significantly. Jordan requested the FBI provide the committee with the WFO's documents relating to January 6, including all orders issued by the office to other field offices to open investigations, and the number of FBI agents involved in January 6 cases. Please provide this information as soon as possible, but no later than 5 p.m. on October 3rd. You think they turned it over? We remind you that whistleblower disclosures to Congress are protected by law, and we will not tolerate any effort to retaliate against whistleblowers for their disclosures, the letter concluded. Yeah, they're not going to get shit. But just while you listen to this guy talk about how important it is to them, just know that that's the underlying stuff going on.
State agencies. HHS provides many millions of dollars each year to state foster care systems nationwide, and as a condition of receiving federal funding, those state foster care agencies and state welfare systems are subject to monitoring by HHS. We've discussed some of that. You described in your testimony that one of the primary ways that HHS monitors state foster care performance are the Child and Family Services Review process. And among other things, that process, the CFSR process, measures whether states are adequately assessing risk and managing safety threats to children, whether they are making concerted efforts properly to address reports of abuse and neglect, to assess risk, again, assess risk and manage safety. First of all, why is it important that HHS monitor states' performance in this area?
Well, safety for children is paramount. And our oversight of the application and implementation of federal requirements in child welfare agencies is a piece of that. The ability to have appropriate responses and timeliness is critical. And again, as has been stated, for vulnerable children, and being able to provide protections for children that need it. The CFSR process, as stated, is our primary monitoring tool that we have. However, I do want to just note that we also have the ongoing relationship and work that the regional offices do with the state agencies during that monitoring process, but also as issues arise, and the ability to talk about how things are being implemented, questions that we might have about the outcomes that children are experiencing are an important part of that.
And so for states that are not in substantial conformity with those federal standards, we discussed adequately assessing risk and managing safety threats. What is HHS role in helping to improve their performance?
So the CFSR process involves a sampling of cases where there's a deep dive into the following of the procedures and requirements at the federal level, conversations and interviews with young people, parents, foster parents, community members, partners, all involved in family and children's lives. And then it is assessed whether or not they are in compliance or not in conformity with the expected
Bullshit.
Measure. If there's non-conformity, then there is a process that plays out around building a program improvement plan. And that is done with our team and the state agencies team in identifying what strategies are going to be employed, what is the benchmark that they're working towards improving to, and then having ongoing conversations and check-ins along the way during that 2-year period. If at the end of that program improvement plan, the state still has not successfully met the set measure in the plan, then there is a financial penalty that is applied
Oh, really?
to that agency.
And has
Am I
anybody ever
correct
been
that,
given that?
Georgia DFACS is one of those state child welfare programs that was penalized because it did not complete its program improvement plan?
Really?
Yes, every state that's been through a child and family services review has been involved in a program improvement plan. Georgia, at the end of the 3rd round of the CFSR, did not successfully meet the marker in the program improvement plan and was issued a penalty.
Of how much?
In addition to
Wow,
monitoring
she
by
looks
HHS,
very uncomfortable.
federal law requires states
Did
to
you see that
establish
body language? That was very uncomfortable body language.
citizen review panels comprised of members
Ooh, citizen review panels. I like
who have
the
expertise
sound
in
of that.
child welfare to evaluate and issue annual reports on the state's efforts to fulfill its child protection obligations. Why is it important for states to have these panels in place?
Child welfare can't do its work alone. The work of protecting children and working with families is, in fact, a community and societal responsibility. And so having citizens of the community as part of an assessment process and digging into doing case reviews and giving a non-agency perspective on what's happening around a particular case or overall in regards to the agency's practices is important to be able to have diverse perspectives and insight into what's happening in order to be able to really fully continue to focus on and continued improvement in practice and striving for better and better outcomes.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to take a moment and note, since there's been some lively discussion, some criticism earlier of the full committee's engagement on these issues, that protecting children from sexual exploitation has been one of this committee's, when I say this committee, I mean the full Senate Judiciary Committee, top priorities in this and the last Congress. The full committee held a hearing on kids' safety online. I expect, based upon conversations with Chair Durbin, that next month there will be a hearing with big tech CEOs to discuss their failures to protect children from online exploitation. Chair Durbin and Ranking Member Graham have issued subpoenas to 3 of those CEOs. This year, the committee has reported to the full Senate 6 bipartisan bills to help protect child safety online. And one of those, for example, is my and Ranking Member Blackburn's Report Act. I understand that in the previous Congress, Senator Blackburn and Chair Durbin led legislation that was signed into law that eliminated statutes of limitation for federal civil suits by survivors of childhood sex abuse. I also have a note here from Chair Durbin making clear his intention and willingness to work with Senator Blackburn on a bipartisan basis to obtain records relevant to the Jeffrey Epstein case that Ranking Member Blackburn noted. And so I want to make sure that that was made clear for the record, since Chairman Durbin has another engagement at this time and isn't here. I want to continue with the FBI, Mr. Perez, and dig in further on the efforts that are being made to investigate and prosecute the trafficking and exploitation of children. In August of this—
All right, yeah, this is a question that's coming up in both chats. Citizens appointed by whom? This is the problem, right? Like, a citizen panel is a good idea. I know Dr. Corcoran was talking about that for hospitals. Like, hospitals should have a citizen board, or at least a couple of members on the board who are not doctors, who are allowed to review some of these cases. Parents, people have been through some medical problems, you know. I agree that that's a good idea. The question is, who appoints them? Because if it's just some rubber stamp, I do you a favor, you do me a favor, that's not going to work. You know, it almost needs to be completely separate from the entity, not appointed by anyone who's related to any of this. And how do you organize it? Now, in Montana, a parents group in Montana actually created their own, and then started lobbying from parents, you know, who have been wrongfully treated by DFS there and the family courts. They created their own citizens oversight panel, and then they started lobbying lawmakers to make them a thing. And they're I don't know if they've done it yet, but they were very close to doing it. Last time I talked to them, they were very close to getting their entire commission that they created, you know, codified into law. I think that might be the way to go about it, but it is very complicated and it's a long process. However, and then you have a totally separate, independent organization that chooses its own representatives. And it's in Montana, it's completely run by parents and experts, some like professionals who have had bad experiences with DFACS or DFS.
This year, the FBI reported that during Operation Cross Country, and I believe you were intimately involved in this operation, that 200 victims of sex trafficking, many of whom were children, and who had gone missing were recovered. Were all the children who were reported missing, all the children who were found who had gone missing, had they been reported properly to NCIC as a missing child at the time
No. Let's hear how she gets
that
out
they
of
were
this.
recovered by law enforcement?
Sir, I do not have that answer. I can tell you that when we encounter a few things, we look to identify locations of victims, and also at times through identification. Sometimes when we say identification, that could be in an online case where we've identified a child victim that's being exploited. And then there's also a locate, meaning that we've actually physically located a child that's being exploited. I don't have information to speak specifically.
No, because why would you? You're not the one who would report them. All right, I need to skip ahead to see if there's going to be, because I feel like we're not going to get any answers out of either of these two. Are we going to have any testimony from anybody else? Is the question. Oh, how long? I thought this went on for 3 hours. Looks like, are they on a break or was that it? All right, that might have been it. I'm not impressed with either of these people.
Sits with ACF. The actual implementation of the child welfare system and the running of the child welfare system is at the local level, at the state level. And so it does require partnership and working really closely with the jurisdiction in that balance between practice and policy, as you're indicating.
And so in the other conditions, requirements, and standards, CFSR, you have a program improvement plan process. There are penalties where there's failure to implement the program improvement plan. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that you think that those incentives are driving states, not in all cases. We discussed Georgia faced a penalty for not successfully completing its program improvement plan, but other states are, many states are, according to your testimony, completing those program improvement plans successfully. And the sense I'm getting is that you think that's working. For federal standards that are not captured directly by the CFSR, asking you earlier, for example, if a state does not successfully implement policies and procedures to screen children who are recovered after they've been missing for sex trafficking. And this OIG report looked at 5 states and found that in most cases there was no evidence that the children had been appropriately screened by the state agencies, to be clear, not by HHS, but by the state agencies. When we were discussing that problem, what I heard was you can provide technical assistance, you can provide best practices, you can remind states of the federal standards, but do you have a remedy akin to the program improvement plan and the penalties associated with it? Are there sticks and carrots, or are there just best practices that you communicate to the best of your ability within the confines of your relationship with that state agency?
Well, the other mechanisms that we have are to do partial reviews. If there's an issue that comes to our attention.
Oh my God. Okay, I finally figured this out. Flux has found that Rebecca Jones Gaston was on the Nobody Should Believe Me podcast with Andrea Dunlop, our new favorite friend, talking about how Maya Kowalski only won because she's blonde and white. How are worlds colliding like this? How is this a thing? It is episode, in case you want to know, it's the December 14th episode, which is so weird because that's the same day that she's testifying on this panel. The very same day is the same day that the podcast comes out on Andrea Dunlop's podcast, Nobody Should Believe Me. Just when we thought the endless saga is called What Now? Episode, I don't know what episode, but December 14th called What Now? Just when we thought the endless saga of Kowalski versus Johns Hopkins All Children's was over, turns out it might only be beginning. Oh my gosh. You may have to listen to a little bit of this. But I don't have time. My kids are going to be home in 15 minutes. So you guys can go and look that up. I'll see if I can find a link. Andrea Dunlop. See if I can find it. December 4th. I can't believe this. I can't believe that this is happening. How is this happening? Yeah, here it is. In this episode, lead attorney for the Johns Hopkins All Children's Defense Team, Ethan Shapiro, offers an insider's perspective on what happened during the trial and what's happened in the wake of it. Oh, this is the one behind the paywall, isn't it? Tina and Andrea discuss newly introduced evidence, including Beata's request to increase medications despite risks, Dr. Kirkpatrick's questionable diagnostic process. It doesn't say her name on here, though, Flux. Gaston's name isn't on here. Are you sure she's on this one? Are you sure it's this one? I think this is the one behind the paywall. Her name's not mentioned in the description. You sure it's that one? That would be so weird. So weird. Yeah, the world of people that know about CPS and their goings on is very small, apparently. Yeah, we're starting to identify the rats in who are out there defending what DCF does, and it's a small pool. Weird, right? Really weird.
A partial review, which in many ways would mirror the CFSR process, but around a particular issue, and can issue corrective action plans depending on the area in which it sits as far as the legislative statutory driver would depend on what the mechanism is and whether or not there is a significant financial penalty that can be employed or not.
I've got you for about 3 more minutes, so please drill down on those partial reviews as concisely and precisely as you can, what those corrective action plans entail, and what happens if states don't successfully implement them.
The partial reviews would be looking at whatever the particular issue. So they usually come about because an issue has been raised or there is a concern around following a particular federal requirement and digging into that. The reviews would include talking with individuals, the case review, similar case review processes as we would do in the CFSR, and working with the jurisdiction in regards to what they have done, and then issuing a corrective action plan. And then regarding the penalties and the actions beyond that would depend on what the circumstance was and was it tied to a CFSR review and those sort of things. And happy to be able to have my team, work with my team to get back with you around the various funding streams and the mechanisms that we have related to penalties related to those different funding streams, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're going to adjourn here in a moment to let you attend to that engagement that you have. But this is where I would like your commitment here at this hearing, that you and your colleagues will be responsive as you have been thus far and provide the technical assistance that this subcommittee may need to consider how statutes might change so that you have the tools you need to hold these state agencies accountable. The reason that we are looking so intensely at this issue, and I believe that both you, Commissioner, and you, Mr. Perez, at the FBI share this commitment based upon this testimony, is because what is happening to foster children across the United States is
I don't believe that, John. No, they don't care.
Unacceptable.
No.
The placements in homes where the caregivers are not appropriately vetted. And this subcommittee has heard testimony from the mother of a child who was murdered by one of those unvetted caregivers. It's unacceptable. The number of children who are going missing from foster care.
Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, Ossoff?
And the number of children who are then likely, according to NCMEC statistics, victims of sex trafficking is unacceptable. The reports that this subcommittee has received about congregate care settings that sound comparable to detention or incarceration, and which drive some of these children, according to the testimony we've heard, to run away. Because in a state foster agency that is meant to be their sanctuary, they're treated like prisoners.
Yes.
And then upon running away, find themselves preyed upon by traffickers.
Yep. That's how it happens.
It's unacceptable. And the reason that we are holding these hearings is to understand,
you know,
in large part, what Congress can do about it.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah,
So
strongly
your
worded
testimony
letter.
here today has helped to inform us. But we need to go deeper, Commissioner, on whether the tools that are at your...
Start putting the people in jail who are losing the kids, and that'll stop it quick. I mean, Congress can do something. They can write and pass laws that say there will be jail time, penalties, jail. It will be a felony. If you lose kids, and you are the head of foster care, and you lose 1,000 kids, if you lose one kid, you're going to jail. You're getting time for every kid you lose. If you lose 2 kids, you get 2 years in jail. You lose 3 kids, you get 3 years in jail. You lose 300 kids, you get 300 years in jail. That's how this stops. And then you actually do it. You put them in jail. But there's no, they have immunity. Chapter 39. Every state has its own immunity laws. So when he gets up there and he shakes his little pen in the face of these people and he says, this is unacceptable, he's not going to do anything about it. They're not going to do anything about it. Nothing. He's going to accept her explanation that she has a 5-year plan, and then they will go back to doing what they're doing, and they will keep losing the kids, and the kids will keep getting sold into sex trafficking, and nothing will be done. Yep, they have meetings and say words. This is why you need to get on the phone and call him, because maybe he can do something to save one family. He may not be able to save all of these kids, but maybe he can save one family in Georgia, because that's his state. You know, maybe he can save one family in Georgia. He should set his sights a little lower. Just save one family in Georgia. Go save the Hernandez family. Go talk to that DA, Penny Penn, and ask her what the hell she thinks she's doing. Ask her about the evidence she has against these people. If they do not have actual evidence other than unexplained fractures, you cannot charge and put these people in jail for child abuse. There are plenty of other reasons why fractures might occur, especially in a baby who has a very low vitamin D deficiency. Duh. Ugh. Ginger, are you following on Locals? Because you will get your notifications there if you are. MeganFox.locals.com. All right, guys, for the rest of your afternoon today, I would really like it if you would go over to the Hernandez call sheet. I have updated it with the numbers from all of the senators on the subcommittee on human rights. Blumenthal is there. So Ossoff is here. Blumenthal, the governor he's governor of Georgia. Call him, call Ossoff, Blumenthal, Peter Welch, Marsha Blackburn. When you call these people and you send them emails, make sure you mention that they sit on the Human Rights Committee, and we know you're interested in foster care and the problems in foster care. And so here's a problem happening in Senator Ossoff's backyard that he ought to know about. Please talk to him about it. Please bring the Hernandez family in front of your Senate committee and hear their story. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be great if he could bring the Hernandezes to the Senate to tell him what was done to them in Georgia? Maybe we should be asking him to do that. Bring the Hernandez family. Bring Jennifer Williams to tell you what DFACS in Georgia is doing to them. Put them in front of the Senate committee and let them tell you. Testify. We're going to watch another one on a different day where he was talking about how there was parents testifying. I have that one too. That one was in October and it's an hour long. So we'll watch that at another time. Also, update on Maya Kowalski. So I have in my hot little hands the affidavit of Dr. Wassenaar, which has not been read in the courtroom and was not admitted into evidence. And I have been told that it is fire. And I want to read it. It's 11 pages. I don't know when I'm going to do that, though. I need to go right now because I have to get my kids off the bus and get them snacks and start their Christmas vacation. And so I will be doing that, but I will also be sending emails like crazy to the list. So everybody, please go to the description of this video, get the call sheet, and please make those calls and those emails today for the Hernandez family. You wanted to know what you could do to help, and this will help. Keep them hearing that name. Keep all of these people. I want all of these people to know who they are. I want all of these people to know at least a little bit of their story. And I want their ears to perk up every time they hear Hernandez, because the people, we need to show them that we're not going to let this go away. We're not going to let this die in the dark. Whatever they're going to do to this family, whatever they're going to do to them, they're going to do it in the light. They're going to do it while we're watching. And that's powerful. Okay. All right. Let's, I don't know when I will be back. I know that tonight, Legal Vices has a Christmas party that I'm invited to that I probably will make an appearance at. It's his mod Christmas party. I happen to be a mod, although I don't do mod things. So he invited me anyway, though. And also Danny on Direct is doing a Christmas party, which I am also invited to. That starts at, I don't know, like 3 this afternoon. So I'm going to try and make an appearance over there as well. If I do, I will post links. I won't be able to stay long at either one because, like I said, it's Christmas and the kids are expecting to do fun things like make cookies and watch movies. And so that's what I will be doing. All right. It's time to say goodbye. But I encourage you all to get on the phone, get on your email, send letters, send faxes, use efax.com. You can send free faxes. I gave you all the fax numbers that work, and I really would appreciate it. I can't do it by myself. I need all of you. And I know so many of you have asked over and over again, what can we do? And I've given you actionable items. I've given you things you can do. And I just want you to do it with me. And I would love to hear from you. If you want to email me and tell me how your experience was. And if you have phone anxiety, it's okay to read off a script. It really is. Make your own. If my script is too long for you, make a short one. You only have to say 2 or 3 sentences, you know? Kiwi Green, are you looking for a lawyer in Maryland? His name is Ed Middlebrooks. Middlebrooks, Ed Middlebrooks, powerful lawyer in Maryland. He's an absolute beast. So if you need a lawyer in Maryland, go see Ed. I love Ed. And my sister's been working with him for years, and he's an absolute lion in the courtroom. Love him. All right, everybody. I'm just catching up on some of your chats. I don't want to miss anything. Oh, I think I missed a super chat. Whoops. Unhung Hero, thanks for the super chat, says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Yeah, the scariest words in the English language. Glad I did not miss that. Okay, guys. Take care and be out there burning up those phone lines. I want them running around the office. I want them asking, who are these Hernandezes and why do we need to find out about them? And I think maybe we need to make some phone calls. All right, everybody, you take care. I will be back. I don't know when, but check locals, meganfox.locals.com. Be a member over there. It's only $5 a month and we have a lot of fun over there. And there will be a cookie stream. So Mr. Fox is making cookies, he said tonight, and he's going to do it for locals. He's going to make his famous cookie recipe, chocolate chip, I think. Chocolate, what does he put in them? Chocolate and brickle or something? Like they're very good. They're very good. So if you want to be a part of the cookie stream, that's going to be on locals. Use promo code Maya. You'll get a free month on me. And yes, I'm frantically searching for the end. You know what? We haven't done our squats today. Yeah, let's do that. That's how we'll end the show today. Get up, do your squats. Nick's going to fat shame us for 1 minute and 22 seconds, and then I'm out of here.
You impose fatness on you. You did it by going, oh, I want the butter on the popcorn. Oh, I want the butter on the ice cream. Oh, I want the butter on the sandwich. Oh, I want the butter on the salad. Stop eating butter. Can you just get up, walk 1 mile? Do squat! Walk farther. And if you can't walk, crawl, roll, get dragged by a goddamn forklift. Whatever is wrong with you, just move. Ever. Get off the chair, get off the couch. No one is coming to service you while you sink into that furniture, while you become one with the pleather your poor ass got on that Walmart couch. Can you try not floating into sadness? Stop eating, stop drinking, start walking, start doing anything that you haven't been doing, you fat piece of shit.